So basically, I am not a historian. I have just studied Sanskrit with traditional pandits, one from South Canara, another one from Tamil Nadu, and like that I had the experience of meeting with pure traditional Brahmins who were living as before, as always, as they have lived always since centuries. I was interested in their works, in their character also, and their habits. And I feel that if we follow this type of traditional pandits, we can approach the real spirit of Indian culture. This is with this temperament, with this idea, that I started studies of Indology. My father was already one Indologist. He is famous for this, and he has organized a lot of institutions to allow the French, even European, and Indian, traditional Indian scientists to study together. So I benefited from this. Of course, I met Vasundhara, and we have an exchange since 56 years exactly. So in this common life, she is fascinated by the site of Hampi. She has taken me there, and I became fascinated by the site of Hampi. So I studied architecture of Hampi, the history and the different forms of architecture on the site, from possibly 7th century up to 16th, and up to practically the 17th century. And even in 18th century, there were also constructions which were done. Not the best, but not the traditional ones, but there was some activity. Because what is remarkable in the site of Hampi, you have the belief of Śaiva religion. All the currents of Śaiva religion were concentrating on the site of Hampi. And there are many Śaiva currents in ancient times. When it became Vijayanagara, when the kings took power and were dominating the whole of South India, pandits and traditional people who had talent, artists, scholars, all intellectual, all persons having dance, interesting intellectual power, were concentrating on Hampi, in Hampi. So at that time, Vaishnavism came also to Hampi. But we have to remark that when the kings left Hampi at the end of the 16th century and beginning of 17th, at that time, the Vaishnava cults, Vaishnava temple, had no more worship. Worship was stopped in all these temples. But in the Śaiva temples, which was the old, very old, century-old, millennium old, the religion, the worship remains alive. And still now, the temple of Virupaksha is one of the major pilgrim sites of Śaiva people and devotees, locally and also from far places of India, especially of the south. So in that case, we have to do the history, we can follow the history of the beliefs of the people with very good sources. For historical correct historical information, there are inscriptions on the stone of the monuments, on the stone of the rocks, and for the beliefs of the people, we have Sanskrit documents. We have the manuals, which we call Śaiva. We have all the tantric schools, or Śaiva tantric schools, which were represented in Hampi, because there were pilgrims going there from different sides. But we can notice that only nowadays, only worship is done in Śaiva temple, in the temple of Virupaksha and temple of Pampa, the goddess. All temples of Vishnu are abandoned. And there were great realizations like Vitala temple, and now it is a beautiful place to visit, but no more than that. Whereas devotees, real devotees who have a lot of bhakti, are continuing to gather in Virupaksha temple, in the Śaiva temple. So Hampi, in that sense, is a treasury of beliefs, treasury of architecture. Partly it is a museum, partly it is a living culture. And we are happy to witness a temple which has very old traditions and which is still continuing. This is a uniqueness of the site of Hampi. In addition to this, it is a beautiful, very beautiful natural landscape. And if modern tourism, mass tourism does not spoil the place, this is going to happen probably. If they do not spoil the place, it is something which is worth visiting. If you have not yet gone, you are guilty of not doing it. My view of Hampi, there is one place called Anjanadri, which is a hill. In the local legend is that it is the place where Hanuman was born, where Anjana, the mother of Hanuman, gave birth to Hanuman. So it is told that when Hanuman was born, he was very hungry and he wanted to eat the sun, thinking it was a nice cake. He jumped to reach the sun, and Indra intervened and threw his Vajra, so that Hanuman received a shock on the face, on the shin, and that is called Hanu in Sanskrit, so he is called Hanuman because of this. But when he jumped, his waist, you see, in South India, all the babies wear a waist around their tummy. When he jumped, his waistband broke and fell down on the ground. So people say that now at that spot we can see the place, we can show the place where the waistband of Hanuman, when he did his jump to reach the sun, fell down. There are many details like this, which we learn from the book, not because these stories very often are forgotten by the people, local people, even now. Only the old ones, which narrate the marriage of Shiva and the goddess Pampa. Pampa was doing tapas in order to deserve to marry Shiva. And Shiva was also doing tapas, and nobody knows for what purpose he was doing tapas, because he has no need to do that, but that was his desire to do tapas. So Shiva was doing tapas on a hill, which is called Hemakuta, and Pampa was doing tapas at the foot of a hill near the river in one place which is called Pampa Saras. And there is one nice tank at that place which is still shown nowadays. Shiva finally was happy with the penance done by Pampa, so he desired to marry her and to accept her as his spouse. So he sent the gods to call Pampa for marriage, to call Pampa and to bring her at a distance of about 1 kilometer, to bring her to Hemakuta in his residence to celebrate the marriage. And this celebration is still remembered, and there is a kind of commemoration done every year. First, to commemorate the day when Shiva accepted the tapas and the greatness of the goddess Pampa. And that is called Palapuja. This is called Palapuja, and this occurs at the end of December, beginning of January. Then there is a scene of the marriage, and this is commemorated with a great festival. There may be 1 lakh of people coming only on that day, 1 lakh of devotees. So there were installation and a kind of even urbanistic architecture started from 15th century to welcome the pilgrims. So in the front of each of Virupaksha temple, there is a long avenue, about 1 kilometer long, straight, going between 2 ranges of boulder, of rocks, a beautiful scene, and the chariot of the god makes a procession all along this area. This is to be seen, and that happens in April.
Chaitra, Indian New Year, Chaitra Shuddha Purnami, Chaitra Purnami, on the full moon day of the month of Chaitra. And during the king's time, during the historical period, there were 3 chariots back in that time, taken in procession. One was for Pampapati, and the other one was for Pampa Devi, and the third one was for Ganesha. And after 1565, for some time, there was a disturbance, and in the 18th century, there was one local devotee called Vishtapaya, and there was a guru called Sri Vijayanagara, both were Shaktas. They introduced this cult of Bhubaneswari in the temple. Till then, she was not there. They introduced Bhubaneswari, and this introduced the taking the procession chariots also. And in one, Pampa Virupakha Deswet, and in the other, that Swami of Sri Vijayanagara Empire.